Welcome back. In this video, let's look at a very important concept in Java called Enum. Enum stands for enumeration. So let's look at what it is in this video. Let's start off. I'll create a new class. I'll call this Enum runner. E-N-U-M, and in tips Enum. As you can see, I cannot create a package called enum because enum is keyword in Java. So I'll say enum s, enums. Okay. How do we get around all these restrictions? Finish with a main method. And now, why do we need an enum? Let's consider a scenario, right? So typically, if I want to represent a seasons, so string season, I can say is equal to summer, or I can say instead of summer, I can say winter or fall or whatever, right? But the thing is, if I use string, I cannot restrict. So somebody can come and store garbage. How can I pose restrictions in terms of what are the values which a specific thing can contain? That's where enums come into picture. You can create enums with a very simple way. So enum is very similar to a class. So instead of class, I'm saying enum, and let's choose seasons, right? So season, I'm going to specify what are the different seasons. So let's start with winter. I'm a negative guy, right? So I'm starting with a winter. Winter, after that, spring, summer, fall. Cool. Now we have all the seasons defined. So the thing is, with this, if I say season is equal to something, it's going to complain. It says, okay, garbage, is not a valid value. You can only have these values present. Season dot winter or season dot summer or season dot fall. So this is what enums allow you to do. And the other thing with enums is you can pass them to methods, you can store them into instance variables. So you can, if you want, create a season in here as an instance variable. Wherever you can use a class to define a type, you can use a enum to define the type as well. Now you might be wondering, is that all? Nope, that's not all. There are a lot of utility methods that are present on the enum. So this is one way of creating a season. The other way you can create another season, let's say season 1, is by from a string. If you want to create a enum, you can do that by saying season dot value of and pass in a string value. So let's try winter. Oops, it should be season, not string. It should be season. And let's now print season 1, sys out season 1. What would happen? It says no enum constant of this type. So you cannot use winter with capital W. You should use all caps because that's the value which we have defined in here, right? So it's winter. So if I want to get the value from a string, then I would need to exactly match the string value which is present in here. Or you can say winter, and then I can use winter in here. This is not really consistent, but I'm just showing you as an example. So ideally I would want to have winter and winter in here. Cool. What are the other utility methods which are present? So you can say season 1, that's winter, right? So season 1 is winter, and you can see that there are a lot of methods which are present. So you can say name, and it would print just the name of it, which is winter. It's just exactly the same what would happen when I system.out.println. Or you can print something called an ordinal. Each value in the enum is assigned something called an ordinal. So you can see that it prints a value of 0. So this value which is assigned is in the order by default. Ordinals are 0, 1, 2, 3, and so on. So ordinal for spring, for example, if I say season dot spring, dot ordinal. What's the ordinal? It's 1. Now, if I change the position of spring, let's say to 4th, the ordinal would be 3. One of the things is it's always a constant discussion as to how to store enums into the database. Can we use the ordinals to store enums into a database? The thing is, it's not really a good practice, because if you use ordinals to store the thing, if you change the position of the thing in the enum, then the ordinal is going to change. So all the values that you have stored earlier into the database with earlier ordinal have all been now modified. So that's not really a good practice. In the next video, we'll give you a tip as to how you can store values, how you can assign values to the enums. But for now, the ordinal is which position a specific value is inside a enum. It starts with 0 and ends up to n minus 1. The other method which is also present in enum is season dot values. So you can also get all the list of values. So this is going to return an array. So if I print it, you would see all the values which are present. Will I? It's going to return an array. So it's printing the array thing. So to do a toString on an array, I should do arrays.toString. And now this would print the content. Cool, right? So now it's printing summer, winter, fall, and spring. So season.values provides a way where you can actually get all the values, all the enum values which are present in a enum. Okay, there you go. In this video, we gave you a lot of tips around enums. Enums help you to restrict the kind of values that are present to a restricted set. It also has a property called ordinal, which is by default assigned based on the position in the enum. And also, you can loop around all the values of an enum by using the values. We also looked at the value of method using a string. We also looked at the fact that this string should exactly match whatever is present in the enum, and it's case sensitive. Until the next tip on enum, bye-bye. Welcome back. In the continuation of the tip on enum, let's look at a few more things around enums in this specific video. In the earlier video, I said you should not use ordinals to assign a value or to store the value of an enum into a database. Then you might be wondering, how should I store this into a database? The typical way we would do that would be kind of assigning a value to it. So you can say summer of and say assign a value of it. So for now, let's assign an integer value. So I can say winter 2, fall 3, spring 4. Right? It gives you a compilation error. Right? So how do you get this to compile and work? Let's look at that right now. So what we are using in here is a constructor. So this is like creating an instance of an object. So now I need to create the constructor. So I can say public season. If you make it public constructor, then everybody from everywhere can use it. I don't want to allow that. So I'll make it private. So private season, and I can say int value. So you can create a season by passing an int value. However, I'm making it private, so it can only be called from inside the class. So season of value, I'll say this dot value is equal to value. Now, this dot value, where is value present? Let's now create value as well. So I can say private int value. Cool. Right, so now the code compiles. The things that you are understanding right now is I'm not only am I assigning a value, but enum can contain variables and enum can contain constructor as well. Now you might be asking, how can I get the value of this outside? Because right now the value is not accessible outside. And that's what this is also telling us. It says the season.value is not really used anywhere. What we can do is we can create a getter. So I'm doing an Alt-Shift-S and generate getters and setters. So you can even have methods inside an enum. What I'm doing is creating a get value method. I don't want to allow setting a value from outside, but I would want to allow get value. So now I can do a get value. So instead of ordinal, I can say dot. Oops. Let's leave that as it is. and I'll print ordinal, and over here I'll say get value. Is that good? So you can see that the value which is being printed is 4, and that's basically what we have assigned for spring. So the ordinal of spring is 3, however the value that we have assigned is 4. And the important thing is the value does not change irrespective of the position. So spring 4, the value would be retained. So the value of spring would be printed as 4. The ordinal has changed, but the value remains as it is. So in this video, what we discussed is the fact that enums can have variables, enums can have constructors, enums can have methods, and we also discussed how you can assign a specific value for an enum, and you can use this value to store it to the database. This value is not going to change even if you're going to change the position of the value inside the enum. Until the next video, bye-bye. Welcome back. In the previous videos, we looked at the basics of enum. We looked at how to create an enum called season, and we explored how to use enums. Thing is, the enum can exist on its own, so it does not really have to be inside another class. So I can take this enum and actually put it in a class. So I did a Control X, and now I'm going to go to the package enums, and I can paste it in Control V, and you'd see that the season is created outside, and you can even make this public to say this is a class on its own. And now I can save this. Let's do a format, Control Shift F. Now you can see that enum is stored in a file of its own. So you can do that as well, and that's how typically enums are stored. There are a lot of enums that are created as part of the Java API, and let's explore a couple of them. Let's look at one of the enums. Control Shift T, day of the week, right? So in a week there are 7 days only, and that's not going to change. That's why in the java.time API there is something called day of the week enum, and the day of the week stores the possible values for a enum, right? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Another example of an enum is month, java.time.month. So Control Shift T or Command Shift T and type in month, and you can pick up the java.time. What would be the months which are present in here? You can see that in here as well. So it says January, February, and so on and so forth. You can also see that you can create a month of by passing in the value of a month. So there is a static method which is present in here, which allows you to create a month based on the number of the month. So you can start with 1 and go on up to 12 and pass it and get the specific month from the enums array. Over here you can see that the month.values is taken and put it into a private static final. So all the values are put onto an array and it's used to access it in here. I'll recommend you to spend some time with the day of the week and the month classes to understand how enums can make your job as a programmer easier. One of the things that a lot of programmers have is something called primitive obsession. What does that mean? Is typically anything would be a string or a number. They would not even think about enums in most of the scenarios, and that's not good. So whenever you think there is a specific list of values and you would want to restrict to those set of values, try and go for a enum. Until the next tip, bye-bye. This video is part of a Java course with more than 250 steps helping you become an expert on Java. You can find the complete course details in the description of the video. Along with it, you can also find the details of a free PDF with 200 pages of awesome code examples in 28 minutes, creating great programmers.